the Snail Trail 4x4 podcast. If you like going off-roading in Toyotas, wrenching on Toyotas, camping in Toyotas, and maybe even poking a little bit of fun at Toyotas, and of course, seeing why Jimmy does not like to sit in his Jeep and Jimmy chair. The Jeep and Jimmy chairs over here.
Yeah, if you knew a Jeep and Jimmy, he could probably sit there.
Oh my gosh. Anyways, welcome everybody to the podcast. This is a Thursday episode, so we got a lot of wiener-tastic stuff for you guys. Let's see, man. Where do we start off?
I don't know. Yeah, it's a new month, so we've got FNGs, we've got birthdays, we've got a winner for the mag drill from Walter Tools. We have a final winner of the weekly like giveaways going on, and whoever they tagged.
Yep.
What else? There's what's the other? And 1986 Toyota 4x4 pickup got in contact with us. So
sweet.
we've got a whole bunch of stuff to announce and talk about. Plus, you and I have been doing a lot of stuff in the last few weeks. So,
yeah, this might be a longer episode. We have some good content for you guys this time, which is awesome.
Maybe not.
Maybe.
Good.
We have content. Oh man. Yeah, so and then we have what is this, July now?
July.
We have July's giveaway to announce.
True.
Lots of good stuff. So let's start with June stuff.
Okay.
So let's finish out Tool Month.
Finish Tool Month.
With Walter Surface Technologies. Did we do and announce the giveaway for last week's or the previous week's giveaway, which was I think we did because it was the safety one that wasn't about safety. It was about the grinder.
Yes.
That's right.
I don't offhand remember who it was. Grinder winner was that Azzyrnr.
That's right.
Yeah.
Azzyrnr. Okay, cool. So now we're on to the drill bits.
Drill bits.
Weekly giveaway.
This was the fun one that everybody always enjoys.
Yep.
So you tag a friend and you and the friend win a prize.
What? I'm not tagging anybody.
Well, then you didn't win.
Oh.
If you didn't tag at least one person, then you didn't get entered.
But okay. Dang it.
Now
I didn't understand the rules of the contest. I guess
people could have tagged you.
Oh, and I could have. Oh, okay. Yeah.
And people did, by the way.
Oh, nice.
I got a SnailTrail 4x4 got tagged also. But unfortunately, we didn't win.
Oh.
No, I know. We won by giving away fun tools for everybody else.
I guess so.
Yes.
So
let's see. So we had 270 entries.
Nice.
Yeah, not too shabby. Over 1 week of the real running. And a lot of people entered a lot of times. So that was pretty cool, which is fun to see. I believe the person that won only entered 3 times.
Oh, really?
I think so. Just by scrolling through quickly.
Did anybody Florida Frank the contest?
Let's see. So MORRFlate Sean did a pretty damn good job of entering names, and Wreck-It Rob entered a lot. They Florida Franked pretty decently.
Good job, guys.
Yeah, excellent. So the winner was Anderson_automotive_adventures.
Sweet.
Yeah.
And who did he tag?
He tagged
his buddy
JACE.6.7.
Okay, so somebody with a 6.7 Ford, maybe?
Yeah, hopefully. Or they were born on June 7th.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. So, yeah. So, Anderson, Automotive Adventures, thank you for participating. I'll get in contact with you and try to get in contact with that JACE guy or gal, and we'll go from there and get your contact information, your addresses, and we'll send over the information to Walter. Walter's sending everything out for us this year. So, cool. Yeah. Through looking at Anderson Automotive Adventure, he also did the Flex stuff a year ago.
The stacker?
He's also following a whole bunch of podcasts.
Oh, so he's probably a regular listener then.
Probably. Yeah. So super excited to have somebody that's been following along for at least a little while.
Yeah.
To win this prize, and somebody I don't think that, to my knowledge, that we haven't had win anything yet. So,
cool. Unlike Will Richardson, who seems to keep winning everything.
Yeah, right.
Will, what are you doing? And I think he's rigging it somehow.
Well, yeah. Will rigging it, son. But Will didn't win anything this month. Sorry,
Nope.
Will.
Sorry, buddy. All right, so cool. So that's the drill bits giveaway, the last weekly contest we did for Tool Month.
Yes.
So now we have to finish up and round out Tool Month with a mag drill that we get to give away.
I know. Super awesome.
Yeah.
And we have something like 100 people in the giveaway tier.
Yeah, give or take.
Giveaway
a few.
plus the gift box tier.
Mhm.
And you'll never guess who won.
Will Richardson?
No.
Oh.
Tyler Larson.
Hey, let's imagine that. That's awesome. He's a really good dude. He deserves a mag drill.
He seems like a nice guy.
Yeah, he would let a couple people use it.
Yeah, probably some of his employees.
And I don't know if I'd go that far.
Okay, good. No, sorry, Tyler.
What?
You can't win.
I'm done. I'm leaving.
Bye.
Taking my chips with me.
Good talking to you. Finally, I get a podcast to myself.
Yeah.
I did that for a month. It wasn't the most fun, easy thing. Sam Hardy was our winner.
Congrats, Sam.
Yeah, Sam Hardy. So congratulations.
Mini mag
for you. Mag drill for you. Yeah, from just doing a little bit of looking on there, you've been a subscriber of ours for over a year, and super excited that you won something.
Yep.
We probably already have your contact information. I'll just confirm it with you off air, and we'll send that over. Yeah, get a mini mag over to you, Walter. Walter will send that over.
Sweet. Does that round out Tool Month then?
That, for the most part, rounds out our Tool Month.
Exactly, yes. So there's kind of conjunction with the Tool Month, Walter has a kind of a year-long contest going on that people could win a 2024 F-150 trimmer, a 2-year lease on one from Walter, and a bunch of monthly giveaway stuff. And so we've talked about it in the past. Just go into your local welding supply stores and look for Walter consumables. So drills, flapper discs, grinders, cutoff wheels, whatever it is. There's Drillco and also Triumph are part of these as well. On the items, there will be a QR code with instructions on how to enter. So all you do is enter, I believe, an image of the item into the QR code and you're good to go. And so that one is going through, and they're going to be pulling a winner in November for the F-150 trimmer, but they're doing monthly giveaways for all sorts of different stuff. So the sooner you get in, the more chances you are of winning the monthly giveaways. And then
it goes till November, I believe.
That's when they're doing the drawing for the trimmer. Yeah. And then in conjunction with that, we're doing our own version of that giveaway, right? So you go in and you get that same picture that you submitted to Walter through the QR code. Send that picture to us as well. And then that will give you one entry into our giveaway. If you send us a picture of the item and the receipt proving you purchased the item, you get a second entry. So you could get up to 2 entries per purchase that you're doing out at your local welding supply store. And we're going to be having that open through the end of August, I believe it was.
I believe so, yeah.
So we'll do the drawing for ours in September. And we will have some prizes for that one as well.
Absolutely.
So,
cool.
Yeah. Fun stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. So where shall we go next? Shall we talk about 1986 Toyota 4x4 pickup?
Yeah, let's do that one.
All right. So yeah, that was a fun one. It was an interesting conversation. The gentleman Lance wrote me and he said, "I think I'm the winner." I said, "Okay.
Why do you think that?
Why do you think that?" He said, "I think that's my son's account."
Oh.
And I'm like, okay.
So his son won,
well, I guess his son is, or he had his son write a review for him.
Okay.
I'm not 100%
or
sure.
stole his kid's phone.
Yeah, something. I'm not, yeah. So I said, okay, well, prove it more or less.
Yeah.
You know, like none of your information says that you're 1986 Toyota 4x4 pickup.
Mm-hmm.
So how do I know this? So we went in a roundabout of trying to figure out a good way for him to show that he at least had access to get that account, or his son had the access. Eventually we figured out how to figure out your nickname on Apple.
Okay.
And that's the name that shows up whenever you write a review or you like or subscribe or to anything. They know it by your nickname. So I unfortunately had to download iTunes to figure this all out. And
you're infected now.
I've had an iTunes account for many moons because, we have to due to podcasting and whatever. But I usually download it, figure out whatever I need to figure out, and then uninstall it.
Nice.
So I had to download iTunes, and then I had to go figure out how to find your nickname. Then I eventually figured that out. Then I sent that information over to Lance. Then he sent me the information back that showed 1986 Toyota 4x4 pickup is actually his son's account.
Nice. Yeah. Awesome. So Lance gets a sweet swag pack and an elite membership for Onyx Off-Road.
Yep.
A 1-year elite membership.
Absolutely.
So that's pretty sweet. That's cool.
So congratulations, Lance. Thanks for getting in contact with us. But there's still another one of these up for grabs. So if you want a chance to win an Onyx Off-Road Elite membership, you need to leave us a review before we get to 700 reviews. Then you'll be eligible to win the swag pack plus the membership. Yep. And at 750 reviews, we're giving away a set of Yokohama tires.
Yeah.
Super excited for that. Those are DOT approved and have to be smaller than a 20-inch rim. Otherwise, all the other tires are up for grabs. Any tire you want.
Yep. Pretty cool stuff. Thanks to Yokohama and Onyx for doing those things for listeners. It's
Absolutely.
Pretty cool stuff. So
yeah.
Let's see. Shall we talk a little bit about July's giveaway?
Let's do FNGs and birthdays first.
Okay.
And then we'll jump into what they all can win.
I like it.
All right.
I like it a lot.
Should be one of those tabs up there.
All right. So we went through everything. Where did the winner for June? That was Sam Hardy. So we need to go over here to
already updated the birthday tab too. So you should, the first one on that at the bottom of that list is our FNG.
Here we go. Somebody did finally what we've been recommending. I think that'd be my guess. Our FNG for June, one and only, Dan's Drives. Dan's Drives. So it's a possessive Dan drives. So I'm guessing it's like Dan. There's a dude named Dan that owns a car sales thing. I don't.
A drive-through.
A drive-through.
A drive-in.
A drive-in. Ooh, a drive-in movie theater. That'd be cool. And he's advertising for it now.
Yeah, it could be.
Dan's Drives.
Dan's Drives.
Thank you, Dan.
FNG for the month of June.
Yep. So now we're going to do birthdays.
July's.
Yep.
1 year.
1 year. Jason Golden.
Thank you very much.
And
there's
Maximum
Maximus.
Who I learned actually does exist. So
you've met him.
I met him finally at KOH this year.
Yeah. Super jelly.
Yeah. He's pretty fun. He's cool. His new truck is hilarious and it works. And I love the simplicity of it and all the customization he's done to it.
Like shrank the body.
Yeah. In almost every dimension.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy.
Yeah.
That's the amount of work that him and his girlfriend did to do that was insane. I listened to the Wheeling Wine and Whiskey podcast with them. It's just
nice.
Nuts.
Yeah.
So thanks,
it's
Max.
Pretty cool. It's pretty rad. Thank you, Max, for being on there for 1 year, bud. Let's see. 2 years, July. We have one.
All right.
Green Thumb Irrigation.
Hey, thumbs up.
Hey, for Ryan Gorsuch.
Yeah. I wonder if you do bonsai.
Oh, you guys can have a bonsai episode.
I'm down.
3 years.
3 years.
Ben from Dover.
Ben Dover. Thank you very much. I heard he's from like Oklahoma.
Yeah, from the
it's
Dover.
Ben from Dover, Oklahoma.
It's Ben from Dover, but Dover is located between the two Chicos.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So
I thought yes, I must have been mistaken.
Yes, you weren't on that conversation.
It was Ben Dover. Okay.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. We'll have to ask him. Ben, call in. You're gonna have to enlighten everybody on if you're from if you're from Dover, okay,
Oklahoma. Yeah.
So you're Ben Dover, okay, or if you're from somebody made popcorn.
I smell it too. Yeah.
All of a sudden. Or if you're from the Dover, California, that's between the two Chicos.
Two Chicos.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Let us know, Ben.
Thanks, Ben. 4 years. We got
4 years.
2 people. We have William Eck. No, sorry. We have no 4 years.
No 4 years.
Yeah, no Julys. Those are Junes.
Ooh, okay.
5-year July.
5-year Julys.
Patrick Eddy.
Mr. Eddie. Wow. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So we have...
Is that our only 5-year July?
That's it. Yeah.
Okay. Sweet. Thanks, Mr. Eddie.
Yep. So we have...
Petty 11111111.
That's right. He was our first reviews giveaway winner, wasn't he? Petty 111111.
He
Was it
won
first or
one
second?
of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember.
But we have gifts figured out for the 5-year anniversaries as they come through. So we're having them made right now.
Mm-hmm.
They're pretty sweet. I'll give it. Jimmy found these kind of randomly, and I was like, "That's perfect. That's awesome." So we're having them made. Once they're all made, we'll get everybody caught up from May, June, and July. It looks like there's 9 of you guys right now. And we'll get those shipped out to you. We'll confirm shipping information and get those out to you guys. They're pretty sweet stuff.
Yeah.
Pretty cool things.
Yeah. I hope, fingers crossed it doesn't take us till gift box month.
Yeah.
To get those out. But yeah, I'm really hoping they'll be in within the month.
Yeah.
That'd be rad.
Yep. Cool. So that's FNGs and birthdays.
All right.
Let's see. So now, so what we do with the tiers that we've set up with SnailTrial4x4, if you guys are new to the podcast and you waited until episode
517
to start listening, we have monthly giveaways that we do. And we have a gift box that we do every 6 months for people. We do a lot of giveaways. We really try and make sure that you guys have the ability to win some cool stuff from all of the connections that we've gotten in the industry, thanks to the podcast. And so we do a monthly giveaway every single month. In order to get signed up for it, go to irate4x4.com and go down to the SnailTrial4x4 forum. Once you're in there, all your sign up options will be on the right-hand side if you're on a computer and at the bottom of the page if you're on a mobile device. But that's how you sign up for all the most of the giveaways that we do, stuff like that. There are other stuff like Tool Month is that we just got done with. That's a whole nother monster of different ways to sign up for all the different stuff we do during Tool Month. But for the monthly giveaway, it's a really cool thing. We try and make it at least $100. And it seems like we haven't really had one that's been down at $100 in a long time. They all seem to be at least $200, $300 or more. And this month is no exception.
Okay, cool.
So we at MORRFlate decided that there's some really cool brands that exist other places in the world that don't have a lot of sales channels here in the United States for off-road stuff. And it seems like Australia is amazing at coming up with really cool off-road technologies, off-road devices that make off-roading fun, easier, simpler for people, more convenient, make it better, whatever it is. And so we found a company in Australia that makes a lot of different stuff, but the main thing that they do is throttle controllers.
Okay. Yeah.
And so we did a episode about throttle controllers with Banks.
Correct.
Not too long ago. And then I was from that point on, I was kind of like intrigued with throttle controllers and what the benefit of them, but I've always seen them as more of a go faster kind of thing.
Absolutely.
A quicker throttle response, right?
Sure. Right.
And so I started talking with, I got introduced to the guys from Ultimate 9 in Australia, which is kind of the Banks of Australia.
Okay.
And they are, he really described it in a way that it wasn't really described when we were talking with Banks. Throttle controllers for off-roading are amazing because you can soften the pedals so that as you're climbing stuff or like rock crawling, you need to go slower. You're not just blipping your throttle and spinning out your tires all of a sudden.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay.
We never talked about that, mentioned that at all.
Yeah.
in the episode with Banks, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That makes complete sense. I mean, now you have control of when it gets to a fuller throttle, or how, if you're full pedal to the metal, how much output is it actually providing you?
Exactly.
So it would make a lot of sense that they could slow it down so you have more control. Yeah, that direction was never brought up.
Yeah, but then like if you're driving to and from the trails, you can dumb down the throttle per se for controlled throttle on the trail, and then when you get back on the highway to go home, bump it back up to your highway settings, and
or normal or whatever
you want to do. You have a tow setting, like it just kind of, for some reason, they had a great way of describing the benefits for off-roading specifically.
Okay.
Because that's really what they designed it for, was for off-roading in Australia. And so they have a lot of really cool stuff. There's a lot. It's a super feature-packed thing. It does a little bit more stuff than what the Banks does.
Oh.
I'll give it that. At a little bit better price point.
Okay.
But they don't have really any sales channels in the United States. They tried to, and the guy that they had kind of in charge of it all is just not doing anything. And so I was like, I want to be your sales channel. Let's have MORRFlate distribute Ultimate 9 in the United States.
Okay.
Because this is a really cool product. You guys do a really good job with it. And so that's what we're doing. So for the month of July, we're going to be giving away an Ultimate 9 EVCX throttle controller, which is their,
what is that?
They have 2 different tiers of throttle control, I guess. And so their bottom tier is very similar in features to the Banks, but in my opinion, a much easier packaging and streamlined packaging. Super easy to connect and wire up. And you don't have to go through an iDash in order to run the unit itself. The control user interface is tiny. It's like the size of a UPC barcode on a box of cereal.
Yeah. Is it that thing? It's in the box out there. I saw it. So yeah, it's like half the size of a Matchbox.
Yeah. About that, and thinner. So
it's a pack of matches. And somewhere in there.
Yeah. The matchbook. It's about half the size of a matchbook. Yeah. And so super small. You can put it anywhere. If you can't find space for it, you've got a lot of stuff on your dashboard. But it's a ton of features in this little stupid simple thing to put on. And the EVCX, so that's the EVC.
Okay.
The EVCX has all the extra features, and it's extra features, right?
Okay.
It also has a Bluetooth controller in it, so you can Bluetooth to an app on your phone and control everything through an app on your phone. It has a valet mode that limits your vehicle, how fast it'll allow the vehicle to go. There's a complete lockout mode to it. So you can hit lockout mode on your phone.
Yeah.
And it will shut off your pedal.
Oh, wow.
So there's zero response. So like people can't really steal your vehicle.
Yeah.
They would have to know A, that you're running a throttle controller, and B, how to unhook it and hook up the regular pedal back to the ECU. But you cannot undo the lockout feature unless you have your phone that you locked it out on.
Oh, so even if they disconnect the throttle controller?
If they disconnect and then connect the throttle back to the ECU, then yeah, they've got throttle again.
Okay.
But they won't ever be able to use that throttle controller, I guess.
Sure.
So, but yeah, they have to look up under your dash, and a lot of times car thieves are not that bright to figure that out.
No.
Otherwise they'd be doing other stuff with their lives.
Yeah. And I don't recall if any of the other throttle controllers out there have a dead pedal feature.
Yeah, I don't think they do.
So that the common thief might know what a throttle controller is, but not know that it's the thing that is making your vehicle have a dead pedal.
Exactly. Yeah. So, there's some really cool features in Ultimate 9. They've been doing this for a very long time in Australia. And so I was like, these are pretty cool, and they're priced at a great price point. They're less than pedal commanders. They're less than Banks, and they have more features. And in my opinion, a cleaner packaging.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, it's some cool stuff. MORRFlate's going to start carrying them, and we're going to start, working on expanding the Ultimate 9 brand here in the United States. And probably end up moving it under its own umbrella, but we have to get to the point where we can prove that we can do that in the United States for them. So right now it's all under the MORRFlate umbrella. It'll be available on the MORRFlate website soon. And we're going to put it up on Amazon for the United States.
Okay.
So it'll be on Amazon for people to order. If you guys want one in the meantime, or just go look at the Ultimate 9 website and check out the EVC, EVCX. And if you decide you want one from here in the States, just give us a call at MORRFlate and we can get you one. We have them in stock. We just haven't got them set up on the website yet.
Oh, cool.
So,
okay. So what is the price point of our giveaway this month?
The EVCX, I believe is $250. 250 retail, or that's the EVC. They're a $50 difference, and I think the EVC was $199 and the EVCX was $250.
Okay,
I have to double check that. It's either that or $250 and $300. But yeah, so that's our giveaway for July, and you get to choose the one that matches your vehicle, and hopefully you have a drive-by-wire vehicle.
Is that the point? Okay,
yeah, you have to have an electronic throttle. So if you have a mechanical throttle with a wire going.
With a cable.
Oh, the cable, I should say.
Going to your throttle.
Going to your throttle that opens your throttle body, but based on how much you push your pedal down, that will not work. It has to be an electronic throttle. So
okay. Making me think about Charlotte over here.
I know.
There's fun.
Yeah. There's a lot of uses for them. And I like, once it was explained to me in terms of off-roading potential, I was like, oh my God. Anybody who has a drive wire vehicle should have a throttle control if you want to off-road, in my opinion.
Yeah. I specifically bought a doubler for the Tacoma because you had to push the pedal down so much and I was getting the acceleration that I didn't want to get. I wanted to go slower and have more control. And so I'm really curious to see if the throttle controller, the Ultimate 9, can solve that.
I think it would. I really do think it would.
That would be really interesting to test out.
Yeah.
To put a slightly dumber pedal in there so that I still have to push it down far enough to keep the RPMs up to use the clutch, but it would also let me feather it a lot easier.
It would be a way easier to find that point at which you like the feather of the throttle. So yeah.
So that would be interesting. Cool. Well, thanks, Ultimate 9 and MORRFlate for the giveaway this month. That's a really cool device, and I'm excited to see where you guys do with, or how you guys market it and advertise it and move it forward in the United States.
I'm excited too. It should be, I think it's a no-brainer. It's already, throttle controllers are huge in the diesel scene, and nobody really thinks of using them in off-roading, really. So I think that just comes down to the education of the potential of the benefits for off-roading. Nobody's really tried to hit that before.
Sure.
So
yeah, even the Tacoma market, they talk about how, it's just, you want it for acceleration purposes. Like, it's just so much nicer to drive. Everything's quicker and easier and better to drive with a throttle controller because while you're on the road, you get better performance in a way.
Yep.
Where Ultimate 9 is really attacking the industry as this is an off-road device. You can actually slow yourself down.
Yeah. And have better throttle control off-roading rather than just more pickup on the freeway.
Yeah.
More whoop-pows on the, not really, more quicker access to your whoop-pows for freeway usage.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I know that one of the key things that Banks had was that if there was ever an issue inside the device, it would default to a safe area.
Yeah.
Does Ultimate 9 have that?
I believe so. I asked them and they said yes, but they sounded a little confused of the question.
Okay.
So I need to mess around with it and see if I can make one fail and see what happens.
Yeah, or just get better clarification.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, I think it's a matter of if there is an issue in the device, do you get a dead pedal or do you
full throttle,
or does it immediately go full throttle?
Yeah.
Or does it default to stock?
Yeah.
What happens?
Yeah, it's a good question. So, good stuff, man. That's July's giveaway.
Okay.
What else do we have?
Jeez, I don't know.
Oh, we're over 30 minutes now into this episode, so let's get into what we've been up to, and we can kind of cover normal housekeeping stuff on Monday for people. How's that? If we miss anything.
Yeah. Sounds great.
All right.
Why don't I go first?
Okay.
Since I think you've got a fairly lengthy story.
Maybe.
From everything, all the hints I've been given, you have a lengthy story.
Okay.
Let's see. I mean, last week we talked about how this last weekend was like the weekend of everything. You know, there was PNW Expo going on. There was a race at an Ultra4 race at Prairie City going on. There was Rubathon going on. I know there was more than that, but there was a whole bunch of big name things happening in our area, general area, West Coast area.
Yep.
So I forgot I had something going on, and so I couldn't go. Well, I couldn't go help Lee because that week was the mini assistant had plays the weekend, theater performances the weekend they were leaving, and then that Wednesday was my anniversary. And so it's like, sorry, I can't miss my anniversary.
Why not?
And then the assistant and mini assistant were doing something on Thursday and Friday that required me to be home. So I couldn't do the mini truck run on the Rubathon. So I was like, I'm just going to stay home and I'm going to work on Samantha. Okay. That was my game plan. And I was like, I'm going to do it on Saturday. And that's, you know, the day that everybody's out doing other things. And I'm just going to sit at home and work on Samantha.
Yeah.
And then Hustle Nuts said, hey, if you want some help on Samantha, I can come over on Sunday.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, sure. First.
Yes.
And then, and then I was like, okay, I'll just swap my Sundays and Saturday for what I'm doing. And I wasn't really doing anything on Sunday. So that freed up my Saturday.
Okay.
Now. And I was like, well, what do I want to do?
Yeah.
So
you went to Rubathon.
The mini assistant and I talked about going to the Rubathon. We did.
Okay.
And towing up to Tahoma, wheeling down Cadillac, hanging out at Rubathon, and then driving up Cadillac, driving out Tahoma and all the way home. And it was like a lot of work. And this was Friday, right?
Okay.
And I was like, I'm lazy right now. It's hot outside. I don't want to pack the truck. It's like 4 hours to get to the Springs, including towing to Tahoe, wheeling down. It's probably like an hour and a half or 2 hours for me to wheel down, you know? So it's 4 hours to get there, hang out for a few hours, 4 hours to get home.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you know, like as much as I wanted to get out there, go see everybody, say hi to them. So we decided not to do that. And then I was like, well, I know that Tyler and Hustle Nuts are going wheeling on Fordyce. Maybe we should join them.
Yeah.
And then I don't know why, but that got denied. I think we had to wake up too early or something.
Okay.
So then the assistant's like, well, we could go paddle boarding.
Okay.
And I was like, or we could go to the Ultra4 race.
Okay.
And so we ended up going to the Ultra4 race.
Nice.
For a while. So that was fun.
How was that at Prairie City? That was a hot day on Saturday.
That was a hot day. Hot. Yeah.
The
sunscreened up. I wore a big old straw hat to cover me.
Okay.
To cover my hair and my head and my bald spot and my body and my nose. And so I didn't get burnt. We got there around 11:30, maybe noonish, and started walking around the pits. And I was like, man, it seems kind of dead here. So I called Jason and I was like, where are you guys at? And he's like, oh, we're down at our campsite, you know, having lunch. I'm like, all right, we'll be right down there. So we went down, hung out with them for like, I don't know, 45 minutes or so, maybe an hour. And then side-by-side races, finals were starting.
Oh,
one of the tiers of those. So then all of us sort of packed up and we all went up they had like a canopy staged and up there and started hanging out there and sort of talked to a few people that were around, you know, saw Carlos from TAC 1 Fab, who's helping Trent.
Cool.
Now Trent Roberts out 4811 race car number. I don't know what his side-by-side number is, but Trent got second in side-by-side and sixth in the 4800 class.
Okay. Nice.
I think he got sixth. And and then, just saw a whole bunch of people. It was a lot of fun. Met Anthony from DF Fab.
Oh, cool.
Never met the guy.
I haven't met him yet either.
Heard him talked about on the Wheeling Wine and Whiskey episode, and didn't put 1 and 2 together until like at the very end. I was like, when I met him down at the campsite, and I was just like, hey, I'm Jimmy. And he's like, hey, I'm Anthony, and so we just started BSing and talking. And then like at the end before we went up to the races, I was like, so what do you like? How do you know all these guys? And he's like, oh, I run DF Fab. I'm like, oh, okay.
Nice.
So hung out with them most of the day. And then I had to be home around 4:00. So I didn't see Trent. Did I? Yeah, I saw Trent finish the 4,800 class. And then I think some side-by-sides went out. I think, I'm not sure. And so I didn't even get to see the 4,800 or the 4,400 guys race.
Okay.
So I had to be home because a 6th gen Ranger was coming by for me to measure his tailgate at 4:00.
Nice.
He was like, I'm going to go off and I'm going to run he's running poker flats, actually, which talked about on Monday's episode. And he's like, I should be off poker flats and coming through your area around 4. And I said, cool. So we left 3:10 ish from the races. Got home. I messaged a guy. I said, just got home. Let me know your ETA. Nothing. Didn't hear from him. Went over to the shop, did some cleaning up, preparing for Sunday. About 5:30 rolls around and I haven't heard from the guy. I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to clean up. And like 7:30 or maybe 6:30, I hear from the guy.
Okay.
And he goes, just got off the trail. Sorry, it took longer than expected. We're going to go to dinner. Is it okay if I still stop by? I'm like, well, I'm not going anywhere. Yeah. Sure. So about 8:00, he gets to the shop and that tailgate is fucked. It's like has weird contours, things raised and dropped. There's not a lot of flat space on that tailgate at all. Like even it has like the old standard kind of style of tailgates where there's in the top third, like if you lay the tailgate down, the closest third to you has like a panel that you can take off and it has like 6 or 8 bolts in it or something like that. It has that, but then it dips away almost immediately. What? Just a few degrees. So it's not even flat. Like if I put it on that, shot it straight out, there would be a gap on the far side. The outsides where they put like fake cup holder style things is raised. Yeah, it's so bizarre. So it's going to be, if I get it to go, it'll be this really weird shape. So we're going to try it out of cardboard a few times and test it out and then see how it works. So so he stopped by. And then
that'll be a really nice feature for Ranger owners to get a flat tailgate then.
Sort of my thought is if I can figure this out, then it'll be sort of a one of a kind. I don't know if any other, some other of the companies might try to do it, but it's just going to be a weird thing. So we'll see how it goes. They also have really tiny screws that go in. So we'll have to test it out. Let's see. So that was Saturday. Sunday rolled by. Hustle Nuts came over in the morning. We worked for a bunch of hours. Got to play with the plasma cutter on the welder. So that was fun. Oh man. Plasma cutting is fun.
Yeah, it is.
It took us a little bit. We actually had to call MF or Ryan and be like, why is this not going? And he's like,
I heard you were in the wrong hole.
Yep.
Hey, when that happens, can be a good thing though. Sometimes.
The Yes welder has like 6 holes in the front of it.
Wow.
5 or 6 holes, something like that for different configurations, right? You're going to have your MIG welder is going to be plugged into where the wire feed is and then the ground, and the plasma cutter is another option and a different ground. And then the stick welder, it goes back to the original ground, but it has its own other feed or diode setup. So there's all these different ones. So we were trying it with the welding ground, the MIG welding ground, and it needed a separate style ground. Okay. So once we moved it over to the ground, it started plasma cutting. Great.
So once you're in the correct hole, everything starts working.
Absolutely.
Got it.
Yeah. Okay. All the sparks fly.
Fair.
Yes. So plasma cutting was fun. We plasma cutted all the brackets off of the front and rear Toyota axles.
Nice.
I only have one grinder. So we ended up like Hustle Nuts and I were swapping off doing some tasks and trying to stay out of the heat.
Okay.
Because we moved my welding table out into the sun onto the front pad, which doesn't have a cover on it. And, you know, he came by and like knocked everything down to a certain point, and then on like the top side, and then I flipped the axle over and I did it on the underside, and then we did the same sort of thing for the rear axle. So all the axles are cleaned now. They're like they're all there's no other additional brackets on there that need or should be on there for getting ready for this under the 4-wheel underground kit. Then we spent maybe another hour just sitting around looking at the 4-wheel underground parts and how they go onto the axle and mocking some things up and like using magnets and putting them in places and like looking at it. And I was reading the 4-wheel underground instructions, and I mean, as decent as they are, they don't reference a 2-wheel drive frame. How dare they, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm not entirely sure where, you know, like because everything's referenced off of the frame hanging bracket for the front.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then, you know, it's like once you mount or get that bracket in place, then you can find how everything else goes together. And we're like, okay, well, we don't know where that bracket goes. So we're kind of doing it a little bit backwards, but we more or less have figured out where the axle is going to sit, because it only is going to have so much up travel. So how can we position it so it gets the best amount of up travel possible? Yeah. And then we went backwards and we figured out where we were going to mount those, the brackets on the frame. Yeah. Right. Yep.
So you have the engine in Samantha right now, right?
Engine's in Samantha.
Okay. Yeah. So you can see where the oil pan is and all that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's all in. So we figured all that out. We didn't tack weld anything. You know, I want to actually, I want to shoot that. I haven't shot any of that video yet, but I want to start shooting the setup and prepping. I also want to shoot photos of all the parts of Brian's kit so that if anybody goes like, what is this? It'll be labeled somewhere and talked about. Yep. Like, this is, you know, the driver's side, strike pad and shock holder or whatever, or it's, whatever there, panhard bracket or something. Yeah. And so I want to label those because at least I haven't seen that on his website.
I haven't seen a lot of that either. Yeah.
So I want to document it so that it's easier for other people out there if they want to get this kit, because it really is pretty straightforward. It's, you know, we've already kind of have the idea of it mocked up, and it's now to the point where like, shit, I almost could tack this together right now. Yeah. And we could see how it works.
Yeah. Cycle it and see what happens.
Yeah. And so Brian even explains on the instructions, like lift the frame up to 30 inches off the ground, because then you can get full articulation and you won't collide with the ground, and you should be able to see full bump and full droop and all this stuff. So, but my frame's not that high yet or anything. So I need to do that, and I need to follow his instructions and move forward. But yeah, I need to take a step back to talk about and shoot video and some photos to where I'm currently at.
Such is life as a YouTuber.
I know. Yeah.
You can't just do it. You gotta do it and describe it and describe it again and describe it again. Yeah. Do it again.
Shoot more photos, shoot more video. Yeah. So I need to take care of that. But I think we have it in a really fair spot. You know, I think it's going to be fine with where it's at.
It looked pretty decent. I saw the pictures of the mock-ups where you have everything kind of placed, and it looks, just from quick glimpse and not being able to be there and looking at a cycle and everything, but it looks like it's in a pretty good spot where it is. So
yeah, I think so. I think it's, I might be able to move forward a little bit more, but even then I'm not sure if it needs to, you know, so I would love to move it as far forward as possible. But I think Brian says like, you know, it can only move forward 3 inches is what his geometry is set for.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And it might come down to the brackets on the frame. And if there's any cross members or something in the way that you may have to move or work around, or
I can't remember. So I don't remember the name of the link that's on top of your pumpkin.
That's just your upper link.
Your upper link. Yeah. So the upper link could collide with my engine mount.
Okay.
That's sort of the one point of contact. And the other point of contact is the panhard bar and the oil pan.
And the oil pan, yeah.
So figuring out the best placement for those is really what it comes down to. I'm sure he already has it figured out, but because I'm a 2-wheel drive frame, I'm kind of having to figure a little bit of it out.
Yeah, try and figure that out with a 10.5-inch pumpkin.
Yeah.
And all your steering in front of the axle instead of on top of the axle or anything. And
but you are a custom frame much wider than I am.
Yeah.
Like we had it set up and then we're looking at it and we're like, where do the shocks go?
Like,
I
do have a lot more room for the shocks.
How's that going to fit in there?
Yeah.
Your shocks are probably even mounted onto your axle, where I'm going to have to like figure out something custom.
I think mine are on the brackets.
Are they?
I think he works in that strike pad panhard. I think there's also a shock tabs on it as well.
Okay.
For that, but
there's separate shock tabs in my application.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was a great day. So we got one step forward on the Samantha build, which is
nice.
Absolutely
You
fun.
got like 3 or 4 steps forward. Like cleaning the axles off. That's that's almost 8 hours by itself or more, if not more.
Yeah. It was a solid, 4 hours for both of us.
Yeah.
So,
And then getting all the parts figured out where they're going to go is an hour, maybe a little bit more. And then going from there and getting them on the vehicle and figuring out where you need to put them to start off to begin with, and then getting them on the vehicle to be mocked up. That's you guys did a lot of stuff on Sunday.
Yeah. I already had the sort of what bracket is what laid out on the ground. I sent some photos to Brian being like, is this sort of right?
Yeah.
Orientation. And he corrected me on 1 or 2 things. So that was pretty easy.
He does like correcting people on their orientation.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. One of the things is you're supposed to have either the knuckle set up or you put a degree finder on like the trunnion bearing and you have to set the axle at a certain degree. Then you start mounting all the brackets and everything onto the axle. I didn't do that. Mine's just, I just threw the axle underneath there and put the brackets on top just to get an idea of how it's going to go.
Yeah.
So yeah. And then on Monday, first gen 4Runner Dave came by.
Oh, okay.
And because he has a 4-wheel underground front suspension, 3-link front suspension. And he came by and took a peek at it and he's like, yeah, looks good. Looks like right where it should be. He said he had an issue because his clutch master cylinder, I think, is it?
His slave cylinder.
Slave cylinder.
Yeah.
Is right on the side of the block, right underneath like the starter. And I don't have that on my block.
Oh, nice.
Right. Well, I don't. It's just not on the block.
Oh, it's just not there yet.
Yeah. And so he's like, you might be careful. You might want to put it on so that you can make sure that your clearancing is appropriate.
The upper link,
yeah. And I was like, that's smart. Like that. I didn't think of that. It's been so long since I've worked on Samantha. I'm not sure what I'm missing or what's supposed to be where anymore. Yeah. So I'll have to put that on to make sure things, when I start cycling and going through everything, that make sure it all works. But that was a good find by him because he had a potential problem with that.
Yep.
And he had a hard wire that just turned out of it and went straight to the frame, and he had to convert it to a softer hose of some sort. So yeah, so that's what I did over the last week for the most part. I went to the Ultra4 races and started Samantha.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is exciting. I'm happy to do it. I haven't had a chance to work on Samantha this week, and holidays are coming up, so I'm probably not going to be. Maybe I'll get to it over the weekend, do a little bit more. We'll just see what happens.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sweet. All I really did this week, the weekend, was I went out to Fordyce with Husman. So we went out on Saturday, and it was kind of like
Hold on, back up. We is a royal we, isn't it?
It's a royal we?
Yeah.
There was a lot of we's on that trip.
Was there?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll get to one of them. It was me, Husman.
Yep.
And then Husman's sister.
Yep.
And then the secretary.
Yes.
And the little one.
And baby Reid.
Baby Reid.
First wheeling trip.
Yeah, first wheeling trip before he's 4 months old.
So cool.
Yeah.
Dang.
So we've been kind of watching and his head control, right?
Absolutely.
And that's the big thing that we've been like, okay, can he handle a wheeling trip or not?
Yeah.
And I needed to get out of the house.
Right.
I was getting cabin fever bad, and I was like, I need to go wheeling. Husband needs to go wheeling. We're going to go wheeling. And the secretary was kind of like, well, I want to go out too. And I was like, do you want to go wheeling?
Yeah. Right.
And she goes, I don't know. What kind of trail is it? And I was like, it's just Fordyce.
It's just Fordyce.
Just Fordyce. And she kind of looked at me and she goes, isn't that the hardest trail in California? I was like, well, Northern California. And she goes, and you want me to come with you on that trail? And I was like, yeah, you and Reid. And she goes, no.
Yeah.
I was like, no, okay. So what if we do like just to the first river crossing and back and just go down there? We'll have a nice picnic. That's nothing really difficult. There's Sunrise Hill, but it's one of the easiest obstacles on Fordyce, considering all the other obstacles are called winch hills.
Right. Sure.
So I talked her into it, and she was like, well, if I need to, I can get out and walk around obstacles, right? And take him around and walk him around the obstacle. And in my head, I was like, yeah, but I think you'd be safer riding in the vehicle than trying to walk down Sunrise Hill.
Yeah. Hold a baby walking down Sunrise Hill.
Yeah. And so, but I was like, yeah, sure. If you want to get out and hike, you can get out and hike whenever you want. That's kind of the benefit of rock crawling.
Yep.
And so we went out there, got him all set up. We took the truck with the Lance and then trailered the 4Runner.
Okay.
I was just going to drive the 4Runner if it was just me, but I was like, I want this to go as good as possible.
Sure.
100%. I don't want to have any issues at all.
So did you drive the Lance trailer, camper, 4Runner, all of it to the staging area? Like, did you go down that rock road?
Yeah.
Jeez. Did it fit?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. I was very impressed, man. I'm still, every time I go out and drive the F-350, something impresses me about it.
Okay.
And we'll get to another thing that impressed me later in the episode. But yeah, we took the truck with the Lance on it and the trailer down into Fordyce staging area where the bathroom is. Mm-hmm. And found a parking spot. It was busy.
Oh yeah.
The staging area was full.
Well, this was Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And everybody's out on Rubathon. So all the locals know not to go to Rubicon. Sure. So they were coming out to Fordyce.
Yeah.
But I thought it wasn't going to be as full because you can't go out committee right now and you can't go up Eagle Lakes Road or Fordyce Lake Road. Sorry.
Rattlesnake,
Fordyce Lake, same thing. You can't go up that right now. PG&E has it closed to traffic and the water flows are high.
Can you not go up it at all? Like from the campground, you can't access it?
I don't know if they have a gate up, but PG&E is running 50-ton rock trucks up there, something like that.
So you can't drive to Signal Peak that direction.
Correct.
Got it.
Yep. And so as we were parking and staging, there was a group of 5 or 6, 7 rigs going up Signal Peak, leaving the staging area. And then Danny and Dave Jones came by.
Yeah.
And they just romped right through staging, didn't stop, didn't see anybody. Yeah. Just went right there. I was like, oh, hey, there's Danny. Oh, there goes Danny.
Yeah.
So we were there, we got unloaded, aired down, and then went off on the trail, and I moved his car seat over to the 4Runner and all that. And so we're kind of making our way down the trail, and I'm going pretty slowly to just make sure we're not bouncing as much as possible.
Sure.
And the 4-wheel underground suspension is light and days way better than the Leaf Springs. Oh yeah. Going down that road, trail.
Has the assistant the secretary, has she rode in the vehicle rock crawling with the new suspension?
No. Okay. This is the first time she's been in the 4Runner with the new suspension.
Cool. Yeah. Okay.
And so we're going down. She sat in the back seat with the kid. And
holding the head. I picture her like leaning over, holding that.
She was starting to do that at first, and then she realized I was taking it easy, and the rig wasn't bouncing and getting thrown. The cab wasn't getting thrown around as much as it used to. So she kind of relaxed a little bit and had a good time. We found out that because he's rear facing, right, on descending ledges and going down stuff, it was fine because he would just sit. His head would be back in the seat as we're going down stuff.
If bouncing
around on a trail was fine because he's got these big old things that come around on the sides of his head to keep his head from flopping side to side.
Yeah, some bumpers.
But climbing stuff his head would go flung forward for him.
Sure.
And so whenever we went to climb something, she would reach over and hold his head.
Ah,
yeah.
So you need the big rubber band thing.
So we need the big rubber band thing,
Yeah.
which she does not like that idea and scolded me for bringing it up. So anyways, we bypassed Driveline Hill. Hussman went up it.
Okay.
By the way, his buggy on the 42-inch Treps, it looks like everything is in place now.
Yeah.
It looks like everything belongs on that buggy now.
Yeah, I agree. Just 42s, I think.
I guess so. Yeah.
It's like the 40s weren't like, it was like a big truck with tiny tires.
Yeah.
You know, and then once you put the big tires on it, you're like, okay, now that fits.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. It's like Tacomas with stock tires, but then when you go to like Tacomas with 35s, you're like, yes, that's the tire size that body should have had.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and that's sort of 30 or 42s on his buggy is like, that's how it should be.
Yep.
And to some extent, he designed it that way.
Okay.
Because I know that he was anticipating eventually going up to the 42s.
Okay.
And so I think that like the top bar and things, like he had things positioned to make sure that he was going to have the clearance at that point in time. But then he changed axles, and he changed drivetrain and changed his engine.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think, you know, there was a lot of change on that vehicle at that point.
Yeah.
But it does look good.
It does look really good, and it works really well.
Yes.
There's a couple of things he still needs to button up. But it was fun watching him play in the buggy throughout the day kind of thing.
Yeah.
I did make a comment at one point. I was like, "Oh, your little center sections are really cute, husband." And he goes, "Hey, you think those are cute? You should see my big old shafts." And I was like, "Oh, that's right. Your shafts are bigger than mine."
Yeah.
My center sections are bigger, but his shafts are a lot bigger.
Yes.
So,
but he has still, does he have the Gearworks 10 or the high 9s?
I think he did Gearworks. And I think he did the 10-inch ring gears, but he's running on the 9-inch platform, the 9-inch third members, the Ford 9-inch.
Oh,
yeah.
So Gearworks 9s?
No, they're Gearworks 9-inch third members with a 10-inch ring gear. Because there's enough room in the Spider Tracks housing.
Yeah, on the Spider Tracks 9s. Yeah.
Yeah, to put a 10-inch ring gear in there.
Sure.
Yeah.
With you.
So, let's see. We made it up to Sunrise, kind of the top of Sunrise, just as it has that really tight pinch point with the tight turn between the two rocks.
Yes.
And then just starts descending into the waterfall. We got to there and there was somebody coming
where
up.
I was my third member broke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah.
And as we were kind of approaching that, there was a rig, an old OBS F-150, that was really nicely built, had a 3-link Super Duty axle in the front, leaf springs in the rear. But they was coming up and then he had a Tacoma, a 3rd-gen Tacoma behind him.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, you got a 3rd-gen Tacoma down to the river? Down Sunrise? Right? Interesting.
Impressive.
Yeah. So I was like, man, these guys are going to take a while getting up out of here. And I kind of stopped. We pulled off to the side and pulled out and just kind of sat there and we were watching them for a little bit. And we're like, that Tacoma just walked up the waterfall. No issues whatsoever. Didn't slip a tire, but he's going really slow.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this isn't just a 3rd-gen Tacoma.
Yeah, it's got some other.
It's got something else going on.
Yeah, for sure. It's got some low gears.
It's got some low gears going on. And he had a flatbed.
Oh,
it was like an aluminum flatbed that had the truck bed walls to it that you could, flip down and turn it into a flatbed. So he had some pretty cool custom stuff going on with the Tacoma. So I was like, I got to talk to this guy real quick.
Yeah,
See what's going on. So
it's like the Stellar built Ute.
Yeah, very similar to the Mitts Alloy flatbed.
Okay.
But I don't think it was Mitts Alloy. It was a different brand. And so I went up and I talked to him, just trying to poke my head in the window. And I was like, hey man, how's it going? He goes, cool, not bad. We're having a good day. We're just on our way out. And I was like, sweet. I said, what do you got going on with this truck? I was like, do you got lower gears or something? And he pointed down at this shifter knob coming out of his cup holder.
Yeah.
He goes, yeah, I got a taco box in here. I was like, that's there you go. That would explain it.
Yeah.
And I was like, you walked up the waterfall and I was not expecting that. He goes, oh yeah, it was cool. He goes, it goes some fun places. Like, dude, I really like the flatbed on this. And he was like, thanks, man. Yeah, it's a really fun design that they have. And he was explaining a little bit to me. As he started explaining, he kind of stopped mid-sentence. He goes, are you Tyler? And I was like, yes. And he goes, I listened to the podcast. I was like, oh, okay, there we go.
Yeah.
So chatted with him for a little bit. I want to say his name. I'm not even going to try.
Yeah.
I'm going to butcher it. So I'm just not going to say your name, dude. I'm sorry, but I loved your truck. Your truck was awesome. So it was pretty cool.
I had one or two people stop by at the races going, are you Jimmy?
Oh no. Yeah.
I was like, yeah.
Nice. So they got the Ford got up through that kind of pinch rock area by putting his sliders on the inside rock and pivoting, boofing on it, right?
Yeah.
To get up and around. And then the Tacoma came up and he's a little bit longer than the OBS F-150 we were trying to get him to get his slider on it and spin like a top, but he was slightly too long to do it. And so he was in a position where he was going to need to get a winch completely sideways to spin him like a top.
Okay.
But we were also in a decent position to get past him at that point.
Got it.
So we're like, hey man, hang out here for a second. Let us get past you. And then you guys can have the whole area to do winching and whatever you guys need to do to get going. He goes, okay, cool. They were fine with it. And I was up on the hillside, right at that spot there. So I had to come back down and then do an off-camber pass on him.
Yeah.
And as I was coming down, I didn't get back down into the trail to get level before doing the pass. So I had to come down, and then I kind of got stuck in this position where I was almost vertical, but sideways as I was trying to turn to get around him. And I almost rolled the 4Runner directly over onto him.
Oh man.
And so I kind of stopped because my front driver was getting really light. And I was like, that's not, I haven't had the 4Runner at this much of an angle yet with the new axles. And so I stopped and I was like, Husman, come up here. So he brought the buggy up and his winch does not winch.
What do you mean?
His winch will free spool in, free spool out, and it will
you free spool in?
Yeah, you can just roll the drum by hand.
Okay.
If you want to bring the rope back in, right?
Yeah.
And it will operate outwards, but it won't operate pulling in.
What?
So the thing you kind of have a winch for,
doesn't do
main
it. Reason.
Doesn't do it.
Oh man.
So what we ended up having to do was parked him back up on the hill where I was in the buggy, pulled the line out, free spool, put it on me, free spooled it back in with the drum to get the line semi tight.
Yeah.
And then locked it.
Then it had him reverse.
Then he kind of reversed to put tension on it as I was coming down and around. And it, as I was coming down and around, I had it low, and he just had it on my slider to keep me from going over. Right. And it got to a point where, I got down as far as I was going to go, but it was still kind of tipping.
Okay.
And so I told him to release the winch a little bit, let it out a little bit. And I felt the whole rig just go whoop, like start to flop open.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, don't go out anymore. And I was like, I'm just going to try and drive out of this with you holding tension on it. And so as I was doing that, I was pulling his buggy. All of his tires were locked up.
Oh,
and I was just pulling it like it was nothing.
Oh, geez.
And I was like, geez, gearing.
This listener is going like, why did we let them try to drive around us?
They had a great time with it. They were having a ball watching us try and figure this out. But anyway, so those guys are really cool. I'm glad I didn't roll over onto his Tacoma.
Yeah. Where was the baby and the secretary at this time?
They walked down Sunrise, so they didn't see any of this happening, which was good. So anyways, I finished up, got past them, got down Sunrise, and the water is deep at the crossing, even at the shallow shelf line right there on that first.
Yeah.
We saw a couple rigs go through on 40s and 42s. It was to the top of their tires.
Dang.
And the water was getting in the cabs of the buggies that were going through.
Yeah, so I saw videos of people just trying to go in there and it's engulfing them right now. Yeah.
Yeah. So we stopped and camped there. We hung out down at the river on the Sunrise Hill side of the river. We didn't go across for about 2 hours.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, just had a little picnic, had a Subway sandwiches, had some desserts, some cookies, hung out, and just had a great time. Husband's sister loves babies.
Oh, yeah.
Which was awesome because like when we met them in the morning at Subway to get food for the day, she was immediately just like, gimme. And I was like, here you go, take it.
Yeah, she's really nice.
Yeah, she's pretty cool. And so she got to hang out with the baby down by the river. So like she was like, my whole day is complete. Like this is all I want in life, to hang out by rivers with babies.
Yeah, there you go. Glad we could do that for you,
exactly.
Kelly. Yeah.
So we got to hang out. We had a little blanket down for him to be on, and then we took turns being down on the blanket with him. We had the 2-person chair, the folding one, not the new one of the one I lit on fire.
Yeah, sure.
So it was
new U-line.
The new U-line one, yeah. So yeah, it was a great time. I absolutely loved the day. It was beautiful. On the way out, we ran into another guy who stopped me and goes, Tyler, MORRFlate?
Yeah.
I stopped to talk to him because he had a bunch of rigs behind him. This was actually the group that went up Signal Peak. So on our way out, they were coming in to Fordyce.
Oh, okay.
And so he stopped me.
So they did Signal Peak and came down and we're going in?
I guess so,
wow.
Yeah. And so he stopped me. We were chatting. I was just like, hey, how many rigs do you got? Have fun. It's great down there right now. The water is high, blah, blah, blah. And he saw the MORRFlate stickers on the Forerunner. He goes, oh, MORRFlate. He goes, oh, do you have MORRFlate stuff? Like, do you use the stuff? And I was like, no, I'm the owner. He goes, are you Tyler? I was like, yeah. He goes, oh, that's super cool. I listened to the podcast. Yeah. I have a bunch of MORRFlate product and blah, blah. He goes, you guys make some awesome stuff. Had a good time. And that was Greg Makita. So shout out to Greg Makita.
Okay.
He had an XJ though. So no shout out there.
Okay.
So
yeah.
He was with a group of a
shout out recalled.
Yeah. Shout out recalled because you have an XJ. But he was with a group of a bunch of Toyotas. So a bunch of like first gen Forerunners, a couple mini trucks.
Oh, cool.
Kind of stuff. And all those, like after Greg left, I was like, ooh,
yeah. Ooh, nice rig. Ooh.
Ooh, those are cool.
Yeah. Why are you letting that garbage can lead you?
Yeah, exactly. So that was fun and gotten to see those guys. I did have an issue.
Oh,
let me guess. Okay.
Overheating?
Did have an overheating issue.
Wow, shocking.
So we'll touch on that one first.
Okay.
So it was any incline. It seemed like either an incline or after about 20 minutes of wheeling, my temperature would start increasing with the air conditioning on.
Okay.
I would turn the air conditioning off and everything would drop down to 180, 185 according to the ECU.
Got it.
So,
but what about the dash?
The dash was about the same. It was just below center on the dash, which is, I'm guessing that's roughly 160 to 180 in that range.
Okay.
Just below center. The dash gauge I hate because it'll stay center until about 225 degrees. And then from 225 to 240 is where it goes from center to red line.
Okay.
And red line is about 240 on the ECU. So I have those two sensors I can kind of gauge temperature off of.
Right.
I also have my electric fan probe that tells reads the temperature in the radiator and tells the electric fan to turn on if it gets over a temperature, right?
Sure.
So I have that probe I can check. And those three...
And do you check that by just if the fan's on or off?
No, I get out and look and it has a temperature readout on it in my engine bay.
Okay.
And so that, as well as the two sensors I have in the cab, so the ECU sensor and the gauge sensor, they're all reading within about 5 degrees of each other.
Okay.
So I'm like,
that's
consistent. That should be good. On my way out, I decided to push the vehicle because I really wanted to get it hot so that I could jump out and do thermogun. Infrared thermometer tests on different parts of the engine to see when those three sensors are reading 235 to 240, what is my temperature gun reading on everything?
Sure.
So I did that on the way out.
Okay.
And I got the engine up to 242 degrees according to the ECU, red lined on the gauge. And the temperature probe in the radiator was reading 232 degrees.
Okay.
So then I took the infrared thermometer gun and started gunning all of the hoses, the radiator hoses, and the engine block in certain places. At the water pump and the thermostat housing, it was reading about 160, 170, right in that range.
Okay.
The lower radiator hose was reading 165. The radiator itself, the top of the radiator where the inlet is from the engine, that was reading about 180. The upper radiator hose was reading 188. And the housing where the upper radiator hose connects to the flange that comes out of the block, that was reading about 188 as well. But my 3 other temperature sensors were all reading 232 and above.
Yeah. So the one there's a sensor for your fan that is literally shoved through the radiator
At the inlet hose.
on the
radiator. Yep.
And it has a gauge and it's reading the temperature from that temperature probe.
Yep.
So why is that one reading 232 or whatever it was when the infrared gun was reading 180?
I don't know.
Could your infrared gun be 100 off or like 60 off?
50 off, 50 to 60 off, maybe. I need to test it now. Now I'm like, what's wrong here? There's something off because the radiator hoses should not have a 60-degree difference from the coolant inside the hose and the exterior shell of the hose, right?
Sure. Yes, I agree.
If it was like 10 to 15 degrees, maybe I could see that. Not 50 to 60 degrees though.
No, I agree.
So I think either the 3 temperature sensors that I've been relying on are wrong and off, or my thermometer gun is off. And I think it's more likely the thermometer gun.
Yeah. Well, it's easy to test the thermometer gun.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I wonder if you can, I was going to say, I wonder if you can bring water up to a boil and shoot at it. Cause water can only get to a certain point and then it just evaporates, but then, or it steams, but then you might be shooting the steam and get a different one. So yeah, I wonder if you can raise something to a specific temperature accurately and then shoot it with the temperature gun.
Mm-hmm. That's a good question, right? My other thought, and I did all this, I've been running around with my hood off as well for a week.
I saw the photos for this weekend. So
no difference whatsoever.
Okay.
So it's not an airflow issue to the back of the block that I'm having.
Right.
It's something else is going on. And the engine seems to be super happy. It doesn't care what I do to it with the air conditioner off.
Okay.
So something to do with the air conditioner on is causing my overheating issues.
Sure. And so when you were driving out, you had the AC on?
I had the AC on. I was trying to stress it. And the other fun thing is that from the time that I parked it at staging to start unloading the 4Runner and getting it on the trailer and everything, my electric fan shut off in 5 minutes, maybe less.
So it cooled down fast.
So it cooled down super quick from the 232 degrees that the probe thought it was at.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I can only foresee 2 reasons that the air conditioner could be causing a problem.
Mm-hmm.
One is the compressor is causing more of a drag on your engine, making it work harder.
Mm-hmm.
Or 2 is the condenser, what is restricting
heating up the air that much.
Well, restricting your airflow, 1, or heating the air up so that hot air is getting to your radiator.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I think that's more likely a combination of the compressor is adding a lot more strain to the engine more than it should be, and hot air getting through the condenser. So what I'm thinking about doing next is creating a bracket and finding a way to connect the condenser to the back of the radiator.
Okay.
So that air gets pulled through the radiator first and then the condenser. And I think I can do it because my engine is
I was going to say
mounted back 3 to 4 inches. So I've got enough space.
You have room.
I have room to put the condenser behind the radiator. So I'm thinking about trying that first.
Right. You're gonna have. I think you're gonna have a problem moving the condenser.
You think so?
Well, I don't know how the lines are ran.
I would have to get all new lines, probably.
You probably have to get new lines and get everything recharged.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But that's where I'm at now.
Yeah. I mean, either way, if you get a new compressor, you're going to have to get recharged anyway.
Everything. Yeah. Yeah.
So worst case scenario, you're going to have to recharge twice. So yeah, I don't know. I would, number one step I would do is check your, you check your gun. I need to check all of my measuring devices to make sure I'm getting accurate and precise measurements. Yeah. I wonder if you can do the temperature probe in boiling water.
Probably. I mean, I can pull it right out and have,
and you can change the temperature at which it turns on and off. So I wonder if you can set that to be the boiling point or just
you can
set it above the boiling point of water or below the boiling point of water and then see how it acts.
I wouldn't necessarily do that on the system. What I would do is I would just put it into, I would set up the camp stove and take the probe out and put it into a pot of boiling water that I'm boiling on the camp stove right next to the vehicle.
Yeah.
That's I don't think the fan running needs to do anything. I just need to be able to see the readout on the temperature of when the water starts boiling in the pot. It should be about 220 degrees on the temperature readout.
Yes.
So I can do that. That
one's easy to test because it's literally a probe.
Yeah.
And to some extent, the temperature gun should be easy to test. You just need to find something that you know how to heat it up to what temperature.
Yeah, exactly.
I would try it on water first and just see how it reacts. Because I don't know, steam in my mind should be cooler than boiling water because it's it's smaller. Yeah. But I don't know. It might be even hotter. I'm not sure.
I don't know.
We need a science teacher around here to answer that.
Physics people.
Water, though, as soon as it reaches roughly 220, it boils and then it turns to steam. So I'm not sure shooting into the steamy water how that would display on your gauge.
Yeah, I don't know.
The other ones are hard to do.
Yeah. So I do kind of like Kevin's idea of putting in a separate standalone gauge that I can view in the cab.
Yeah, but where are you going to put it and how are you going to write it off? Or how are you going to talk about setting that up? I mean, are you going to get another temperature gauge and just wire it up to what?
The coolant system?
And you're going to put another probe in it?
Yeah. Yeah, there's inline. There's some pretty cool systems that are inline temperature probes.
Okay.
That go in your inlet radiator hose.
Okay.
So you're essentially replacing your inlet radiator hose with another hose that has a sensor built into it.
Sure.
So that it's actually getting the reading of the coolant itself inside your hose.
Right. So you could do one of each of those. You could do an inlet and an outlet.
That's true. Yep. Yeah. And that would give me readings of what my inlets and outlets really are. So I don't know. It's starting to bug me a lot.
Well, to some small extent, I think you just need to figure out which device to trust. And then you need to figure out a solution.
Yeah.
Right. Yep. So I would test the temperature gun because it seems to be the one that's furthest off. Or
you wouldn't trust it?
I would test it.
Oh, test it. Okay.
I would test it to find out if it's accurate or not. And then if it's accurate, then you need to figure out why the other things aren't accurate. Or if it's not accurate, then you can just write that one off. And now you have these 3 other sensors that are pretty close to each other. You know, like, let me just spin this around on you a little bit.
Okay. I'm ready.
So I have 3 different air gauges. And they're all reading the same thing. And then I get one different air gauge and it's reading completely different. What would you say?
I would say the 3 reading the same are most likely the correct ones.
Yeah. And why is this one off? Like, what's happening? This is the one I always use. Why is this one off?
Yeah.
Because it's off for some reason. It's defective. It needs to be calibrated or whatever. Yeah. So I think I'm leaning that direction, but I think it's not too hard to test.
Correct. Yeah. So anyways, that's the latest on the overheating saga.
What was issue number 2 or 3 or 4 or 5?
Issue number 2 was I lost 4-wheel drive in the 4Runner.
What?
Yeah. So coming up around driveline, I took the bypass. I started getting this knocking feeling from the drivetrain.
Okay.
And it seemed to be in conjunction with wheel speed. So the faster I went wheel speed, the faster the knocking happened.
Okay.
But if I went really slow and was crawling, I didn't really get the knocking that much. I was like, what is going on? Is there something? I have a wheel bearing going out? Is there something? It wasn't like a binding thing. It's like when you lost your third member on Fordyce, your whole rear axle bound up.
Yeah.
Until it finally got past it and then it released and made the popping, right? This wasn't that. It was just like not really any resistance on the drivetrain, but it would just go thunk, 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 thunk as I got faster, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I was like, what is going on? And I thought it was maybe something to do with my locker because I put on the locker and then took off the lockers. And when I put on the front locker, it seemed to go away. But it turns out it was just I was going too slow to get it to go knocking.
Okay, so you lost front wheel drive.
So I lost front wheel drive eventually. I was getting to a point where it was happening more and more and the knocking was getting worse and worse. Like it wasn't a sudden onset thing. Like there wasn't a drastic all of a sudden I lost a gear or something.
Yeah.
It was kind of from Driveline Hill to about halfway to Sunrise Hill was when all this was occurring and getting worse and worse. And so I finally started going up a tiny, just a little incline. It wasn't even a rock or anything. It was like the forest road just had an incline to it.
Yeah.
And I was going up that and all of a sudden I heard this ping, clunk, clunk, grind, 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 grind. I was like, that's not good.
No.
And so I went on the siren, turned on the siren to get Husband's attention out ahead of me. And he came walking back and he goes, what's going on? And I was like, I'm not sure, but I'm going to pull over here. I heard a loud pop, a ping, and then a couple of clunks. And now it's just kind of grinding. And he goes, uh-oh. And I was like, yeah. And so I kind of pulled forward a little bit. And he goes, yeah, you're definitely grinding. So okay, let me pull off to the side here. And there was a little rocky area off to the side of the trail. And as I was pulling off into those rocks, I realized I didn't have front wheel drive.
Okay.
So
you're locked. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So we had made the assumption that the knocking was happening in time with the rotation of my front drive shaft. So it's something between my front diff pinion and my transfer case front output. Something in there, which isn't a whole lot of stuff.
No.
And you would think that if something was damaged, it would be a catastrophic damage that would bind up the drivetrain if it was. And I specifically had gotten out because when I first started off-roading in the first gen 4Runner, the white one, I went out to Prairie City once with Jeff Bakken just to play around. And my front drive shaft came off the transfer case and was sitting on my skid plate. And there was 2 bolts sitting on the skid plate with it, right?
Yeah.
And so I specifically at Sunrise Hill, I got out and I looked, and there was a bolt in the front drive shaft. And I specifically, since that time, I use serrated flange nuts for my drive shaft nuts there so that they don't loosen up and come off. So I specifically looked and I was like, okay, there's a bolt there. So our bolts are on the drive shaft. So that's not what's going on. I'm not getting a clunking from any of that. But sure as hell, I got out of the rig at that rocky spot, looked down, and my front drive shaft was sitting on my skid plate.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I was like, did we break the transfer case output there? And so the flange is still attached to everything. And my output is sitting on my skid plate too. And I looked, I'm like, no, it's sitting in the transfer case. And I kind of grabbed it and shook it and it was locked. So, cause my transfer case wasn't a neutral, right? So I couldn't rotate it. I was like, no, that's all still attached mechanically to the drivetrain inside. And I was like, well, then what? And so I looked and I was like, well, the bolts failed. The bolts came out, something like that. And I found one bolt on top of my skid plate that was snapped in half.
Oh.
What I think happened was I think I lost 3 bolts at some point, and I only had a 1 bolt left
on your drive shaft.
Holding the drive shaft to the transfer case. And that's what the clunking was, is the drive shaft was rotating independently of the transfer case to a point.
Yeah.
And it was hitting stuff because as I was driving, the whole drivetrain, my shifters, everything would go with the clunking. It would move sideways.
Oh, weird.
So it'd go like clunk, clunk as it's moving sideways.
Huh.
I think it was the drive shaft hitting the frame on one side of the skid plate or something and pushing the whole drivetrain over in order for the drive shaft to continue spinning. Yeah. And then it got to a point where finally that poor little bolt just gave out. And that was the pink I heard. The clink.
And then the grinding was your flange spinning against your drive shaft.
Was the drive shaft spinning on the skid plate?
On the skid plate. Sure.
Yep. Because the front wheels are still turning to move. So yeah, I lost all 4 of my bolts on my front drive shaft between my drive shaft and my transfer case.
Check your nuts, people.
Check your nuts, everybody. So luckily, Hussman carries drive shaft bolts with him. So we were back up and running in 15, 20 minutes, maybe.
Nice.
So I owe him a set of drive shaft bolts. I didn't remember that I get him some, but everybody had a good time and gave Kelly some time to play around and hold the baby. While we were hanging out in the middle of the trail. We were in a great shady spot. I was kind of almost in a little wet area. So I had to put the tarp down because first time I went under there, my ass got soaked in water, but we were back up and running 15, 20 minutes and it wasn't that bad. And that was really the only major problem we had other than the diaper blowout too.
Oh no. That was bound to happen.
It's bound to happen, right? So, babies get diaper blowouts. It just happens. And luckily, though, I had the Lance with us. And the Lance has an outdoor shower.
Oh, yeah.
So we're sitting there trying to figure out how we're going to clean this kid, wipe him down without wasting all the wipes, because we bring baby packs of wipes, not the full on 500 pack of wipes with us on trips. And so we're like, we're going to use all the wipes to clean this up. And I was like, oh, we have an outdoor shower. Let's just go turn the outdoor shower on and we can just hold him and hose him off.
Right. So when did that happen? On the way out?
On the way out. Okay. Yeah. So after, I
was like, you just dunk him in the river.
Yeah. Right. That would have been nice too. We ended
dirty for the river, but
so we got up to the Lance and just turned on the outdoor shower and hosed him off, and it worked awesome. I was like, this is fantastic to have the Lance here. Yeah. And it was great because I was dirty and dusty and my hands were still a little greasy and oily from the drive shaft stuff. So it was great to just be able to sit there and just rinse off.
Yeah.
Before climbing back in the truck to go home.
That's fantastic.
So
that's cool.
Yeah. Overall, absolutely loved the day. It was high 70s, low 80s out there. Which was perfect weather in the shade. It was awesome. Sitting out down by a river is just, that's where I love being, right?
Yeah.
Just sitting down next to rivers, in rivers, moving water in the mountains.
Yes.
Is what I like. So that's what we did. Everybody had a great time.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Cool.
And then do we want to get into Tuesday with the moving water? And speaking of loving being in rivers,
I don't think it's going to take terribly long.
I don't think so either.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. I like to do fun things for the employees at MORRFlate. And so I've been wanting to take everybody whitewater rafting for a long time.
Yeah.
Whitewater rafting was a big part of my young adult life and kind of transitioning from a kid coming out of high school to an adult working its way through college and figuring out life. Right.
Sure.
And whitewater rafting was a big part of my life during that time. And so it has a special place in my heart. I love being on rivers. And so I was like, I want to take everybody whitewater rafting.
Okay. Yeah.
So we finally made it happen. And we had more people than we could take on one boat. So, we had to buy 2 boats worth of stuff. So 10 people. So we got to bring you along.
Yeah. Thank you.
Uncle Pool
Noodle.
And your arch nemesis.
Dylan. I can't believe you invited him. Oh gosh.
Yeah.
I had to keep him as far away as possible.
How'd that work out for you?
Not very
well. So
he's such an instigator.
He totally is.
Yeah. Thankfully we were in different boats.
Yes. I think you did that on purpose.
I did.
Yeah.
I stood by a boat for a long time and then I walked to, and I like turned around and jumped in the other one
at the last minute.
Yeah.
Nice. So yeah, when took everybody up to the South Fork of the American River. And we did the section from Chili Bar down to Camp Lotus in Coloma Lotus area.
Yeah.
That's called the upper section of the South Fork American. And the South Fork,
also the harder section of the South Fork.
I don't know if it would be harder per se. Yeah. The canyon and the lower can be pretty interesting because at least in the upper, you've got, you generally have a pool between all the rapids.
Yes.
So you have a little bit of time to catch your breath, dunk yourself in the water, get a drink of water, something. The canyon is back to back to back to back to back to back rapids. There's not really any time to catch your breath between the rapids.
Okay.
And there's not a whole lot of way to maneuver in the canyon. So it's a different challenge. So we did the upper section. I felt really bad because when we showed up, I knew the group of people that we were bringing on the trip.
Yeah.
Which is a very, very rambunctious, obscene group of mid-20s through late 30s guys.
Sure.
Jimmy,
early 40s.
Jimmy was the oldest guy there. And so I was like, I know that we're all pretty obscene and we say some pretty messed up stuff. And it's going to be a very rambunctious two boats of dudes.
Yes.
And then we show up and this group of 13 to 15-year-olds.
Young teenagers
kind of shows up near us. And we're like, oh, and then the rafting company shows up, who's the old company I used to work for. So I got to say hi to my old boss and see his son Sawyer, who I haven't seen since he was in diapers.
Oh, geez.
And he was our head guide.
Yeah,
for
he
this
was
trip.
our guide. Yeah.
And so I kind of looked at them and they're like, Tom figured it out immediately. Tom's great at reading people. Tom's my old boss. And he picked it up immediately. He goes, you guys are going to be a pretty rowdy group, huh? I was like, yeah. And he goes, try and do what you can because that's the group that's going to be traveling with you guys today. And he pointed at the early teens,
young
teens. And we were like, oh, that was a bad choice, Tom.
Yeah. Not a good move.
No. So I kind of pulled Tom aside a little bit and I was like, did you take a look at the liability waivers and how the guys answered some of the questions on that? He goes, no. And I was like, you should have. That would have given you a good idea of what was going on today. And then I kind of pulled Heather aside, who's Tom's wife. And I was like, did you see the liability waivers? And she goes, no, I don't do anything with that anymore. I just kind of help run the vehicles around when there's not enough people to, or the guides are all busy. We have enough big enough group going out. And I was like, are they on a time crunch? Cause it looked like they were an outdoor school.
Yeah.
Like an outdoor summer camp school thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, they're typically, from when I've guided those trips, they're on a fairly tight time schedule.
Sure.
So I was like, if they're on a tight time schedule, have them just get in and start going down the river like half an hour ahead of us. We're not on any schedule. We can hang out here at the put in spot for half an hour and just BS and have a good time.
You're right.
You can get them going. And I was kind of trying to phrase it as, just get them going.
Yeah.
Get them
put some distance between us and them, please.
And she read between the lines and she goes, yeah, I think that's a good idea. And so she went over and it looked like she was talking to Sawyer about it. And so I thought that was going to be the plan.
Yeah.
And so Sawyer told all of us to grab a boat and we're going to do safety talk and we're going to get in the water. And so I kind of pulled him aside and I was like, hey dude, do you want to just let the kids go down the river and kind of do this kind of split up a little bit and let them go down the river first? And he goes, yeah, I'm not sure I can, we'll just try and keep our distance because we're all going to be having lunch today at the same spot. And I was like, okay, at least the lunch area is big enough where we can keep our distance and not impact them as much. Right.
Right.
And I was like, okay, well, I was like, I'm sorry in advance. I was like, well, I'll tell the guys to kind of tame it down and keep it tame when we're around the kids, but no guarantees.
Yeah.
And he goes, oh, no problems. We'll make it work. I was like, okay. All right, man.
Yeah.
So started off the day. Awesome day. A lot of fun. Everybody had a really good time.
Yep.
Everything was, I would say, was fairly tame until lunch.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Well, the problem with that happened at lunch is we settled by the food.
Yeah, we settled in the shade by the food.
In the shade by the food.
Yeah.
And all the kids were away from us, but they had to come over to get the food, which meant they came over to us.
Yeah.
So in an essence, we should have swapped spots with the children.
Yeah, but that was in the sun. I would have died.
Yeah. I mean, I understand. Or we should have been farther away from the food.
Yeah. Apparently the counselors after lunch, the two counselors that were there with the trip supervising the kids, specifically requested that we have more distance between the two groups.
Yeah.
So it was a good day. Things started getting a little more rowdy after lunch, and that's also kind of the more calmer part of the day.
Yeah,
all the big rapids are done after lunch, and we're just kind of having a good time, relaxing until we get back to camp and we end the day. But it was fun. It just turned into almost an all-out tackling brawl of seeing who could push and pull people out of boats on our two boats.
Yes.
Kind of time.
More or less. I mean, definitely the other boat was an all-out brawl. Almost any time that the guide was like, okay, if you guys want to get in the water, it was like, who could throw everybody out of the boat?
Who could be last man standing on the boat? Yeah.
When our guide said, okay, you guys can get in the water, you and I just fell
immediately
off of the boat and got into the water.
Unhooked our feet and fell out.
Yeah. I mean, I shoved the paddle in so it wouldn't fall out, and out I went.
Yeah.
So there wasn't even an option for somebody to throw me out of the boat. I was already out of the boat.
Yep.
So yeah, there was definitely a lot of that. I remember one of the funniest parts for me was when Ryan tried to pull me in
at the beginning.
At the very beginning, he was at some point he was in the water. I was sitting in the boat. I was locked in to the foot thing in the front. I was in the front on the passenger side, we'll call it, going down the river. Ryan comes up, he grabs my life jacket, pulls me down. He goes under the water, and he said, I'm under the water deep enough and been holding on long enough that he's probably out of the water by now. And he let go, and then I crunched, did a sit up and brought myself right back up into the raft.
Yeah, because your feet were still locked.
My feet were still locked into the raft.
Your head got dunked underwater.
Yes.
And then you just popped right back up.
Yeah. And he was like, what?
Yeah. That was first blood for the day.
Yeah, kind of. And he got rejected.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was fun. There was somebody pulled me in at one point. I forgot. Maybe it was Ryan or Dylan or somebody at one point pulled me in. Which was, everybody was pulling everybody and pushing everybody. I went to push you in at the very end of the rafting trip. And
I tried to dodge it, and I was trying to grab your shoulder straps to kind of throw you sideways while also going backwards so you didn't hit me.
Right.
And I backed up into our guide and knocked me and the guide off while Jimmy just kind of dove over us.
Yep, exactly. So you screwed yourself.
Yeah.
Which was funny.
Yeah.
But it was fun. We had no casualties.
Nope.
Nobody died. Nobody got bucked out of the boats at all. I don't think on any of the obstacles.
I was surprised that nobody fell out a troublemaker on the other boat because they went over the drops completely sideways.
Yeah. Yeah. But they didn't hit what did they call it? The Rocky Peanut area?
Yeah. The peanut gallery.
Yeah, they
didn't go into the peanut gallery,
where
which is
we
nice.
did.
We did go hit it. Yep.
Yeah. So that was pretty good. Somebody in the other boat, one of the kids' boats, because at that point, the troublemaker was before lunch when we were still together, right? Yeah.
Yep.
But at the very end, the very bottom, they hit a rock and one of the kids fell out.
Yeah. It was after the main rapid part, the difficult parts of the rapid, they hit a little FU rock in the exit of the area.
Right.
And the kid fell out.
And he was totally fine, but he took his paddle with him, but then dropped his paddle in the water. So then we had to paddle out somewhat into the middle of the water, rushing water.
Yeah.
And we got the paddle back to him.
Yep.
So that was fun. We were in point usually, and would go through a rapid and then find an eddy and make sure everybody got through, and then we'd continue on.
Yep.
But yeah, it was a gorgeous day. It was a hot day, but when you're down on the river, it's a little bit of a breeze. There's always a bit of a breeze down by the water, it seems like. And if we would do a rapid and we'd be hot and we'd just fall in the water, and it's freezing cold and you feel great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Thanks for inviting me. Yeah. I think the MORRFlate guys had an absolute blast. Besides Ryan, I think nobody really got sunburnt.
Sean did a little.
Yeah.
I think, and I don't know if it was, he claims he thinks he's allergic to the zinc oxide.
Oh,
because that one arm was really red. And I was like, that arm was red before I put the sunscreen on you.
Yeah.
So
before you splooged on him.
Yeah,
that arm was already red. He missed the spot originally.
Yes.
Yeah, Ozzy is sunburnt on the back of his leg.
Interesting.
Well, because when you're locked in, there's always a part of your leg that is facing outwards.
Yep.
Because you're on your other, what are those tubes called in the middle of the raft?
The thwarts.
You shove your foot under a thwart, and now your back of your leg is exposed. And you never think about putting sunscreen on the back of your leg. I told everybody, you told everybody, put it on the top of your knees because you're sitting down the whole time.
Yep.
So that was, But yeah, I got a little bit of a sunburn on my shoulders, but it's already gone now. And It's been like, not even, maybe 24 hours at this point.
Yeah. I guess we were back in Camp Lotus about this time yesterday. So, no, it was an awesome trip. I got to guide, from starting at Triple Threat through, Thread the Needle. So that was really fun to kind of get back in the guide seat and be guiding on that river again.
I know you did a fantastic job of running us into rocks.
It was fun. I had a good time with it.
Literally, as soon as he guided, we got high centered.
Yeah.
And we didn't
get high centered.
We did get high centered. We had to jump and bounce the raft. So we came off that pointy rock.
That wasn't right away. I took over right at the top of Triple Threat. And we glided gracefully over a couple rocks lining up for first threat.
Okay. Yeah. For first threat. Second and third threat, we're fine. The next obstacle, whatever that is.
Yeah.
We high centered ourselves.
Yeah.
You're like, I guess the water should be higher.
That's called a bridge. We didn't high center. We were bridged between two rocks.
Okay. So it's the same thing, just water terms or rock crawling terms.
Yeah.
We were stuck on the center of the boat.
No, we weren't.
Yeah, we were.
No way. We were stuck kind of wedged between two rocks. There was a rock in the center of the channel and then a massive island rock on the right side. And we were kind of wedged between those two. And that's what was holding us up.
I was in front of the rock though.
I didn't think we were on top of it.
Which one? The big rock on the right side or the little rock that was holding us up on the left?
Yeah, the little rock that was wedging us against the island rock.
Right, but I was saying you were behind the little rock and I was in front of the little rock.
Well, yes, it was wedged in the middle of the boat, but it wasn't. I didn't run over that rock.
Okay. So if you're stuck on your rock slider, are you not high centered?
That's a good question.
You have to be stuck on like your skid plate or your transmission.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with BS on
that one. Okay, that's fair. So anyways, it was, I absolutely loved the day. I was in the water as much as possible, just floating down the river. And I was like, I am back in my happy place.
If there was anybody in the water more than me, it was you.
Yeah.
And I'm usually the one in the water the most.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much any time the guide was like, okay, you can be in the water, Jimmy and I were in the water, swimming around.
And the only time I think that I was out of the water, there was one obstacle that Sawyer was unsure if you were allowed to go down without being in the boat.
Yep.
And by that time, he called us all into the boat and I got into the boat, but you stayed out and you're like, I'm just going to float this one. And he's like, I don't know if you can.
Yeah, he kind of was like, I don't think you should. But if you want to, go for it. And I was like, okay, cool, thanks. And I shouldn't have.
Yeah.
It was shallower than I thought it was going to be.
That seems like the moral of when you were guiding us too.
Yeah, for the most part.
Yeah. So that was the only time I think that really you were in the water and I wasn't in the water.
Yeah.
And that's when you almost killed Ozzy too.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah. So
he kind of disappeared for a while and I was like,
I was thinking about this last night because so you guys were floating down and you were telling Ozzy, you got to get over to
River left,
which is you're looking down the flow of the river, right? And you need to get down. He needed to get to the left, and you guys were floating in the middle, and he didn't make it.
No.
But earlier, not that day, but like a week or so, maybe 2 weeks ago, he said that he qualified for the Olympic team in Australia.
Yeah.
So this really, I was like, okay, did he just lie to us, or is the Olympic team in Australia that bad?
Both?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
like he could not swim to get himself to river left.
No, he couldn't.
He was doing like elementary backstroke.
Yeah.
Like just scooting himself along and wasn't getting anywhere. And I'm like, turn over and swim, kid.
Yeah.
You know how to swim. You supposedly qualified for the Olympics.
Yep. So I was sitting there with him with me, and I was like, you need to get over here. Like, keep going left. We need to go further, go further. He goes, I can't give it anymore. And I was like, it doesn't look like you're trying that hard, but we need to get further. Like, it's not going to be good if we don't make the left channel here. And he did not make the left channel.
He did not make the left channel, and he bounced on half a dozen rocks. You could see him literally bang, 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 bang down, going down that section. And I was like, okay, like I could have swam that, and I never qualified for the Olympics, but you know, I don't know. Ian Thorpe wasn't as big as a swimmer as Michael Phelps, you know, so who's got to say what?
That's funny. So anyways, it was a really fun day. I'm really glad we finally got to make that. I've been wanting to do that since 2020, I think, 2021, something like that. Yeah. So we might end up turning that into an annual thing.
Are we going to do the whole river next time, or do the Middle Fork next time?
The Middle Fork would be a lot of fun.
Middle Fork would be rad.
The Middle Fork is awesome. It's just a long day.
Yeah.
Or you have to do it as an overnight trip.
Sure.
So you're starting at like 7 a.m. with cold cup of coffee, that first rapid there at the bottom of the dam.
Yep.
And then you're ending down at after Reckachucky, a quarter mile, half a mile past Reckachucky Falls.
Okay.
So it's a long 8 to 10 hour day on the Middle Fork. So
it's got some amazing obstacles.
Dude, yeah. I think my favorite rapid on that is definitely Tunnel Chute's up there.
Yes.
But I think I like Kanaka more.
Oh, really?
Kanaka's a lot of fun. It's I don't know. It's a big rapid, big rapid.
You know what shocked me? And I know that we're going on a little bit here, but what shocked me is how many of the guys have never whitewater rafted before.
That was a little surprising to me too. I thought that they would have done more.
I had to like back up and say, well, do you know how to swim?
Yeah.
Like, cause I assumed you knew how to swim because you're coming on this, but if you've never whitewater rafted before, now I got to ask, can you swim?
Yeah.
They're like, oh yeah, I can.
Can you swim in rapids?
No, I don't think any of them can.
Yeah.
But yeah, like how many, 3 or 4 of the 8 people, 10 people that we took have never been whitewater rafting, and Ozzy was one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was crazy. As many stupid things as that guy has done, I assumed he would have whitewater rafted before.
Yep.
But yeah, so I was trying to count it. I think I've done the lower the South Fork 4 times.
Okay.
In different sections. Like I think I've done the bottom section like 2 or 3 times, and then the top section or the whole section all the way through 2 times. So I was counting it 4 times total, because the 2 of the times that I did the south section, I also did the top section. This was the first time ever I've only ever done the top section.
Okay.
I've always either done the all the way or from the from Lotus down.
Yeah.
Right. And then I've done the Middle Fork once.
Okay.
So I did one of the Colorado rivers out of Colorado Springs.
Okay.
Out in Colorado.
Yeah.
So I have a little bit of whitewater experience underneath me.
Yeah. It's so fun, man. It's an adrenaline rush, and it's something where I don't know what it is about rivers, but just being in a river is calming to me. I don't know why.
It can be. It's not very calming when you're going over rapids.
Even then I still feel like
it's calming when you're floating is calming, and you're kicking back and the wind is going and the dragonfly lands on your arm, calming.
Yeah.
When somebody's yelling, paddle forward, it's not very calming.
Yeah, I guess. So I don't know. We'll have to look into it. Arda does overnight trips as well.
Okay.
Like I had mentioned. So you can do that whole river, the upper and the lower, as an overnight trip. And you can
The
either
upper, you mean the
whole river
the top and bottom section of the lower fork
of the South Fork.
of the South Fork.
Yeah. So the South Fork, the American, you can do it as an overnight trip. You can do the Middle Fork as an overnight trip. But the South Fork, the American, you can either camp in Camp Lotus there, or you can do wild camp, which is kind of fun.
Okay.
So, I might look into one of those two options next year, or the Middle Fork or something. So
Yeah. I would do, if it was me, I think there would be some baby steps before you get the crowd to go to the Middle Fork.
Yeah.
You probably should do, an overnight. I mean, most of the guys, that work here are totally fine campers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the camping aspect isn't bad, or the 2 days of whitewater rafting wouldn't bad, but I think they should get a little bit more experience whitewater rafting before they do tunnel shoot.
Yeah.
For sure. And, maybe we can send Sean over Ruckachucky.
Yeah. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
So that's what we've been up to. So Jimmy got a lot of work done. Samantha, you got to go to see some Ultra4 car racing. I got to go play around on Fordyce with a less than 4-month-old.
Crazy.
And then we got to go whitewater rafting.
Yeah, it was fun. It was an excellent week for sure. If you guys want to get a hold of us and make any comments or questions or whatever, you can hit me up. SnailTrial4x4 on Instagram. Tyler's over 4x4 Toyota Tyler. You can get Tyler. You can reach us, email Jimmy or Tyler at snailtrail4x4.com.
Mm-hmm.
You can phone in and be a part of our snail mail episodes at 916-345-4744. And you can ask us random questions about how to control a baby's head while four-wheeling.
Yeah, I like it. With that, Jimmy, any final words to wrap up this longer episode today?
Slap the bag.
And with that, my friends, keep crawling.
I got one for you.
I'm ready. Ready.
Which hand is it better to write with?
The right one. Because there's a wrong one and a right one. So there's the right one is the correct right one.
Neither. You should probably use a pen or a pencil.
No. I prick my finger and use my hand. Okay. You don't tell me what to do with my own blood.
A blood oath.